Hi folks, with us today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, I don't know how widespread this is, but at the employment of and continued employment of people with severe, behavioural handicaps, such as drug taking, alcoholism, that sort of thing, and how not only are they keeping their well-paid, prestigious jobs, but they're able to move to another company and get the same or even same level job or even improve their situation. Now, I don't know how widespread it is, and maybe the examples that I've come across, in recent times are not indicative of anything. I'm seeing a wider, as in my perception at least, I'm seeing a wider decline in the quality of people getting hired. It's affirmative action, it's quotas, it's equity outcomes. There's diversity and inclusion, HR officers, social victims are entitled to employment. The only people who are not entitled to employment are confident, capable, high-performing straight white males. They're probably the only people now that are unemployable. But just have a look at these four. I mean, I could go with more than this, but I'll just use these four as being probably the height of the examples I want to illustrate here. So this guy, he's probably mid-40s now, early to mid-40s, and he's got serious sort of drug-taking problems. He's been into drug rehab so many times, I've lost count. He looks terrible. He looks like a drug addict. The sunken eyes and the whole sort of thing. He goes on various medications to compensate for the drugs. He's been in rehab, then he puts on massive amounts of weight and becomes corpulent and looks terrible. Then he goes back on the drugs and so on. So now he's kept he's got a quite a well-paid job in the finance industry, and he keeps his job. He's never been fired. They seem strangely tolerant of his need to spend weeks at a time in rehab. Now I wonder about, well, what does he do that maybe he's a genius. Maybe he's producing results and getting runs on the board for his employer that means they can look the other way or tolerate his misbehaviors and his absences and so on. So he's doing such a fantastic job here that we'll just accept it. We'll just have to put up with. But that's actually not the case. Now, it seems he's being used to procure drugs and hookers for high net worth clients, and because of what he's working in, because he knows all the drug people and the drug people, because he's such a good customer for them, and the finance company's paying for it. His drug dealer connections sort of give him freebies, and he succumbs, takes them, and gets hooked, and then he's got the problem. But it keeps this illegality and this sleaze away from the executives in the finance company. They can sort of keep it at arm's length and have this guy doing it. And if something goes totally to shit, then they say, well, we didn't know. He was operating on his own. It had nothing to do with us. I mean, he's just a rogue element that, so I think it would go that way. And they want to, because he's such a willing flunky and fall guy, they want to keep him in place. That's the only thing I can think of, because he's producing and creating nothing. Now they're paying him, pretty big bucks. Like he'd easily be on 7 times the average wage, and lives in a fancy house or a nice apartment just near the beach, and actually it's got water views, and driving a nice car. Now, for someone who's probably out of action for 2 to 3 months of every year, in rehab, you'd think they'd say, hey, buddy, get your shit together, or we're going to have to find someone else. But they don't. They put up with it, and he's still there. In fact, he's got promoted, bigger titles, bigger pay packets, and that seems quite astonishing to me. But in a world where merit is increasingly irrelevant, maybe this is the direction we're heading in. He's politically useful to the people in charge, same as a TV media news announcer is for spreading globalist propaganda. Guy may be a fucking idiot, but he's useful to the people that make the decisions, and therefore not only does the guy stay in place, but he's given big bucks. And I've met some news announcers who oh shit, if their IQ is even 90, I'd be surprised. But they scrub up nicely and they can read from a teleprompter, and that's all that's required. People like them. He seems like a nice guy. Anyway, so that's one guy. Now, here's another guy. He's been, there's no drug issues, he drinks quite a lot, this guy, but he keeps having these nervous breakdowns and serious nervous breakdowns, as in he's forcibly confined to a lunatic asylum or a mental asylum. We're talking straitjackets. We're talking the whole business here. Confined as in locked up. He's not going anywhere. It's not like he can leave when he wants to, or he can leave if he's got somebody with him. No, you're not going anywhere, buddy. We're locking the door and you're staying in here, which seems quite remarkable. But he, this was through work. It's like we subcontract to someone. He's a client, and we were taken to one side quietly and advised what was going on. I don't think they should have told us really, but I think it was a private matter between the company and this guy. But anyway, I suppose we'd have found that anyway. But instead of firing him or insisting that he reaches a certain standard of mental health before he returns to work or something like that, instead of that, they just seemed to look past it entirely. They didn't seem to really care. There was just a shrug of the shoulders, and oh well. Now, was he well liked in the company? Was the CEO his uncle or cousin or something? No, there was no family relationship there. There was no reason that we could discern anyway that they would not only put up with this behaviour, but given that he wasn't particularly liked either, why would they not seize upon this as an opportunity to get rid of him? You think, in most situations they would. This guy wasn't a moron. He's clearly above average intelligence, so he's no genius either. But given that people above average intelligence are quite rare these days, then that alone maybe. But you think the HR and diversity department will be onto that and going, hey, he's got an IQ above 100, get rid of that motherfucker. But anyway, so he came out and he wasn't in very good shape when he came out. He's on some quite heavy medication that clearly is affecting him. Suddenly he just sits there in this sort of funny daydream with a weird smile on his face. And it's like he's got no idea what's going on. He's not even following what's happening. Looks like he's off in some dream, some little paradise of his own. I can't see what value he's adding to anything. But anyway, so another month or two or something goes by, and then he's back. He's back in the and again we're talking the straitjacket and the forced attendance in the loony bin, and I'm quite at this stage. I thought again, now they've got to get rid of him now. Not that I wished that on him, by the way, but rather more given that set of circumstances. But no, they didn't. They've stayed with him, and then he's had a number of absences for just a few days at a time because he's having reactions to his medication and this sort of thing. There have been a number of days when he's turned up for work, but either hasn't taken his medication or there's something not right. Something's happened, and he's had to leave. Just suddenly, they've just told him go home. Go. So they've got an incredibly high tolerance for this guy, where you'd think in any real world that they'd have told him to go, but not this case. Now, so I sort of, just out of interest, like I'm intrigued now. Why is this happening? the idea of people turning up for work, ready for work, capable of work, able to do their job, that used to be the standard, but it isn't anymore. And whether it's through affirmative action of minorities or quotas or hiring, black lesbians or all of that sort of stuff, that standard of turning up for work, ready for work, capable of work, that's gone. I don't think it exists. And it's supplying less and less even to white people. And a number of HR directors and so on have told me that confident, capable, well qualified, high achieving straight white males are simply not wanted in their workplace. Simply not wanted. They upset people. They make people feel bad about themselves. Low quality people without any capabilities who are hired on affirmative action, they don't want to be reminded that they're affirmative action hires. They don't want to be shown that this is what the real standard of work used to be. This level of capability and this level of achievement. They don't want that because it makes them feel bad. So it's better that we do not hire capable straight white males and instead hire drug addicts or alcoholics or something like that. If we do have to hire straight white males, let's just have them as drug addicts and alcoholics, and then they don't upset anybody. I mean, it seems insane to even be saying this, but I'm thinking that that's where things are heading. Maybe they're already well on the way to that now. So I did some more digging and found that his sister is the director of affirmative action, appointed the director of one of the largest public service companies or public service sort of organisations in the country, and she's been looking after her brother and shoehorning government business corruptly, in my view, to the company he works for, and it's been made plain that if they get rid of him or punish him for his wayward behaviour, that they'll lose that business. And so they've looked at it from a commercial perspective and said, okay, let's just accept how he's behaving, and let's accept the corruption, and let's accept the dirty dealings, and just go on as if it's not happening. That seems to be, that's the best that I could come up with anyway. If there is another reason, it's certainly not obvious. That's the best I can come up with. And that's been inferred and whispered rather than stated directly. Okay, so that's one. Another one, again, same sort of thing. The guy's he's again above average intellect, but there's something missing. He just keeps on having these complete. He goes gaga, nervous breakdowns. They have to carry him out. He's in such a state. And at one time he was 12 months. He was forcibly detained in a mental institution, and I met him not long after he came out. He was part of some project that we were working on, and he was in a terrible state. He'd come to meetings, and he'd put his head in his hands and bawl his eyes out, and then he'd hide behind desks and claim people were whispering about him and plotting against him, and you'd find him on all fours going around the office in between desks, trying to listen to people saying that they were again plotting against him. I mean, the guy was seriously fucked up, and was constantly having to go back in there for a few months at a time. And his one of his relatives was quite well to do, so they assigned him hired a full-time sort of psych nurse to stay with him and these sorts of things. And I wondered, why would you put up with that sort of thing, and the disruption he caused and the problems he caused in the workplace? And he just grabbed hold of people. You're talking about me. You're trying to kill me, aren't you? This is the sort of guy he was. And but it turns out he's the nephew of somebody who is a major player in a venture capital firm, and the venture capital firm had some money put into this company, and they sort of told, well, we want you have to put up with them and look at. So I could sort of see that connection. But given the massive disruption, I'm just surprised that the problems the guy caused. I'm surprised they were prepared to put up with that, but they were. Um, so that's probably a closer thing. But the guy was gaga half the time. So another one, the guy is a serious alcoholic. He keeps on going into alcoholic rehab and AA and all this sort of thing, but keeps on relapsing and going back into it and goes staggering around the workplace and vomits. And he's in a bad way. Goes out for lunch, then disappears for lunch. You don't see him again because he lives quite a way out of the city where the office is. So he takes taxis back to his house, and so produces taxi receipts for $500, wanting the company to pay it, and all that sort of thing. So he's in a bad way, this guy. But they don't get rid of him. Instead, they sort of just insist that he makes a bigger effort to attend the Alcoholics Anonymous, the AA thing, and makes a bigger effort to get himself in shape. But he again, if he's even lasts a couple of weeks sober, then he's back to the booze and is falling all over the place again. But they don't get rid of him. Anyway, he quit, to my surprise, and he's ended up getting a very very well paid, very prestigious job for quite a well-known NGO, and I can't work out what's going on there. The only thing I can assume is that they want to, they can hold this alcoholic stuff over him, and so he's kind of got to do whatever he's told, sign whatever he's told to sign. Otherwise, he's out, and he knows it. That's the only thing I can think of. But why they would employ him is quite beyond me. I mean, going back some years when I was a sort of a young executive, and I'm talking to a guy who's probably a good 20 plus years older than me, 30 years older than me even at the time. And he's saying, look, Billy Bob, if you really want to be in control of the people that work for you, he thinks he's giving me a gem of wisdom. If you really want to be in control, you've got to only employ people, if you really want to ensure that you're getting loyalty, and loyalty is very important. Not loyalty to the company's objectives or the goals or anything like that, but loyalty to you personally. If you want that sort of loyalty, then you can only employ people who you can hold something over. You have to know something about them that you can use against them, and that becomes the basis for their loyalty. If you've got someone working for you, so say you go, this is him talking to me, say you go into a place as CEO or whatever, and there's some really capable people working there doing a great job and all that sort of thing, they're still no good to you because their success is based on their own capability and their own achievements and their own qualifications. They're independent. They don't owe any loyalty to you. Therefore, you can't really control them if push comes to shove. So you can't afford to have people around you that are independently capable. You can only employ people who owe their position to you, or where you can get rid of them at any tick of the clock if they don't do exactly as you want, whenever you want. So he explained this to me, and I asked sort of a question along the lines, well, okay, so you get the loyalty, but they may be an idiot who does a useless shit job. So what use would they be to the company? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, Billy Bob. Just worry about the loyalty, and that's the issue. And I've been tapped a number of times on the shoulder. Billy Bob, come and work for me, and it's always been couched in the terms, as far as I can recall. I mean, it's been a number of times, and I'm kind of grateful that I've been sought out that often. But the issue, they haven't approached me as a professional. I've never been approached as a professional saying, we want your capability and your results, your credentials. We want what you've achieved. We want you to come here and do it. Here's the position. Here's the money that we're prepared to pay. Here's the bonus program, and da da da, and you get the nice office overlooking the park. I've never been approached in that, but the approach has always been on a personal loyalty level. Come and work for me. not the company or um, and the the job's rarely been, in fact, I don't think it's ever been explained. I've got a general idea of what job they want me to do, but it's a come and work for me. Do you want to work for me? You will be my, vice president or this sort of thing. It's all always couched in those personal terms. And if I ask, what the job is, it'll be a job that I'm satisfied you can do. You'd be that. Well, what sort of money? You'll be looked after. Well, I need to know my salary. I've got mortgages and children. I've got, da da da. I've already said you'll be looked after. Yeah. Oh, okay, all right then. I guess I can't ask any more questions there. All right then. Well, can you give me some idea of what you want me to do? And we'll discuss that when you start. So it's very paternal. You'll be my little bum boy. You'll be my little fetch and carry flunky. Sure, we may call you vice president, but make no mistake, you are my bum boy. And that sort of attitude. Now, I haven't. I mean, if you're getting tapped on the shoulder, I suppose they must want you anyway. But it's something that I've been. I never liked. I said, well, just tell me what the fuck you want me to do and how much, give or take, you want to pay me. I'm just can we cut to the chase? I've got responsibilities. I need to know this shit. Now, if you're going to give me a job as car park attendant, then I need to know that because I've got something better at the moment. And I've walked away from nearly all of those, most of them, because they weren't able to say what it was that they wanted me to do, what it would pay. And all they do is say, okay, it's senior vice president and it pays X. Is that enough? Can we, are you happy with that? I can go a little bit further if needed, and one case, the guy the CEO verbally gave me the job. He said, okay, you've got the job. And the title and position, so the job description was basically, give or take a few details, agreed on. And the day before I'm due to start, he calls me up and says, oh, look, we really need to negotiate the terms of your employment. I said, oh, we've already agreed on it, haven't we? Oh, yeah, but I want to negotiate them again. All right, then. Well, we've agreed on the role and the money and that. So, what is left to negotiate? Well, look, when you travel overseas or travel, I get to sign off on whether or not you stay in a 5-star hotel or not. So if you want to stay in those sort of hotels and fly first class and this sort of thing, then I have to approve it, which means you need to be on my good side. And if I'm not happy that you're going to be my fetch and carry flunky, then you won't get any of those benefits. So the guy still was wanted to say, I'm your patron. Your terms of employment will be much nicer and easier and more favourable if you do what I want, and if I'm confident you're my boy. But if I'm not confident you're my boy, and you're just going to operate as an effective, well-qualified, competent, results-getting manager or executive, then you're not my boy, and I'm not going to sign off on your 5-star hotels and your first-class, airplane travel. That was really the message, and I kind of didn't like that. And I said, well, what's the point of that? I mean, negotiate what, for goodness sakes? And given that I didn't have it in writing at that stage, she just simply withdrew oh, that's it. You haven't got the job anymore. Screw you, and hung up. So, but the reason I mention this is that the the idea of having a fetch and carry flunky is it's been around before. It's hardly new, but it's the extent of it. It's the magnitude, and looking at these unemployable, clearly and manifestly unemployable people who are not high performers anyway. Even if you took out the alcoholism and the drug taking, they're not high performance people. Far from it. They're still in very well paid, prestigious employment. I'll be interested to see your comments below. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.